I generally want my families to be happy, and I know that gym owners out there generally want their parents to be happy. We don't actually look forward to making people unhappy. People talk about favoritism, and I'll tell my kids, in terms of favoritism, I absolutely have favorites depending on the day. You might be my favorite today. You might not be my favorite tomorrow. It depends how you show up. I love every single one of you, but I don't love any one of you more than I love all of you. Meaning, I will not prioritize the individual over the whole. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are going to be responding, my response to a viral post on the crazy moms of cheer. And I know Danielle has done her own response. I am doing this blind without listening to her episode. So this is a longer form, who thinks what, Dan and Danielle in response to this person's post. So if you're not in the crazy moms of cheer, don't worry about it. If you are at all sensitive or you tend to take things to heart, like someone says, it's really horrible when gym owners do XYZ, and you're like, they're talking about me, and you take that stuff personally, don't get on it. If you are going to get on and clap back at parents, don't get on it. It's not the place for that. If you're going to wonder, is that anonymous posting from one of my parents and it's going to keep you up at night and you're going to do interrogations of all of your parents, don't get on it. It's not worth your time. But if you are interested in hearing the other perspectives of parents who maybe are normally filtering things to you, it is a great place to be aware of what's happening in the cheer industry. Now, before we get into the episode, please make sure you head on over to Cheer Gym Owners on Facebook and All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners on Facebook, and you've joined both of those groups. And if you are interested in the academy or learning directly from me or my team, make sure you go to nextgenowners.com. You can sign up for a call to see if you qualify to join the academy, or you can come to one of our CBA events, our Cheer Biz Accelerator events, hosted at our own gyms. Our October event just happened. Our January event is already sold out in Warrensburg, Missouri. So we added a second one in February in Warrensburg, Missouri. You're not going to want to miss it. Our next event after that will be our conference in Texas in June. And then from there, it will be all about the next year or towards the end of the next year in August, when we are looking at our Reno event. So you're going to want to make sure you check those out if you're looking to grow your business. Now, I'm going to be reading from my computer, and I'm going to be reading the different kind of statements that this person makes. And they start out by saying that they love All-Star Cheer, but this is kind of a note to gym owners. And I'm going to respond to their various assertions. Now, I read this early in the morning on Friday, and I haven't read it since. So you're going to get a relatively unfiltered response from me if I was responding to this individual in person. Number one, the cost is becoming unreachable. When monthly tuition reaches $600 to $700 or more, not including uniforms, travel, choreography, and competition fees, cheer is no longer attainable for most middle-class families. This sport was built on passion and community, but it's becoming something only a select few can afford. Families are sacrificing basic needs to keep their kids in the sport they love, and that shouldn't be the price of participation. Cheer shouldn't be a luxury. It should be an opportunity. All right, I have a lot of thoughts on number one. First off, with number one, if there are gyms that are charging $600 to $700 a month in tuition only, without competitions and uniforms and all of those other things on top of that, I think you are likely outside of a fair pricing range. Now, I am the pricing guy. Like, I wrote a book called Charge What You're Worth, the Cheer Pricing Handbook, and I always encourage people to make sure that they're raising their prices to a correct rate. What I more often see is that gyms are vastly underpriced. They are trying to do an all-inclusive tuition, and before they know it, they're actually losing money. The gym itself is paying for athletes to compete in elite cheer. And so I'm kind of on the flip side of encouraging gym owners to make sure that their tuition is healthy enough that it can support the gym. And then they're also charging on top of that assessments and fees to go towards competitions and uniforms and things like that. However, even if I were to do that for my gym, which is a fairly expensive location, I'm on the Pacific Northwest, so we have a very high wage, and the cost of living in our area is relatively high. It's not quite the highest, but it's up there. Minimum wage is 15 something. There's a lot of expense. Our building is over $30,000 a month, and then you've got your utilities, and you've got your insurance, and you've got your payroll, and you've got all those other things. So it's really expensive to run my business. And even then, we're nowhere close to $600 a month in tuition. That's like, if you were to combine tuition and all of our assessments and you were to pick the monthly payment plan, you would still be below $600 a month if you join at the start of the season. Now, if you join later, it is going to be more than that. And obviously, this person is insinuating that that also doesn't include like travel and things like that, which ours wouldn't include. So that is a key discerning factor. Most of the time, the majority of your gyms, their tuition is less than their assessments or pass-through fees because those pass-through fees are so expensive. Oftentimes, what a gym charges in tuition is actually the cheapest rate that they can do. And what I see more often than not is gym owners decreasing that rate rather than decreasing the delivery of the higher tier items like the most expensive competitions or the most expensive uniforms. They're not being quite as frugal on those things, but they're cutting their own compensation for the gym. And for the most part, those kind of fees like uniforms and comp fees and all that stuff, although I do encourage people to build in some sort of a profit margin, although relatively small, that is not what is really supporting the gym long term. It's just that there's a cost of delivery on all of those things. Like just uniforms, if you don't mark it up, well, one, there's oftentimes unforeseen shipping expenses, and there's a cost of delivery. There's time of designing it, time of sorting it, time of setting it all out into bags, like doing all of that work to deliver it to the athletes. All of that stuff does cost money. And if you don't build in a profit margin, then you're essentially losing money on those things. So she goes on to talk about how, I'm assuming a she, this sport was built on passion and community, but it's becoming something only a select few can afford. I agree that this sport was built on passion and community. 100%. I am fully in alignment with this person on that. That is ultimately what it should be about. And it is a sport that is becoming something that is only for the select few that can actually afford it when we're talking about the most elite levels of competitive cheer. Now, I kind of have two thoughts on this. One is I actually almost think it's a good thing that we are making elite more elite and maybe decreasing the amount of elite teams that are traveling and doing all of those expensive things. Although we're actually, I think, still seeing a rise in it. What I think is really important is that gyms need to make sure that they're offering products at various price points. So you need to be able to get people into the sport at a low price point as well as at your most premier price point based off of what that person values, what they're looking for, how much they want to travel, what their discretionary income is. I think that is an important thing to do as a gym, and it's going to open up opportunities for you and give you the ability to grow. So I think that there are certain gyms that are becoming too exclusive because they're not offering those other lower cost options to get enrolled. And I think that is a really, really important thing to deliver the sport for people at a level that they can manage it safely within their finances. But that isn't to say that a gym should compromise its business health to ensure that every single person can participate in cheer. That's not necessarily the gym's role. There are a number of opportunities to get involved in cheer that don't necessarily have to be the cheerleading gym. So there's oftentimes like recreational sideline programs, high school and scholastic programs that generally speaking are cheaper than doing a competitive club style sport. And that is the way it is with most sports. If I want to participate in a youth football league just within my community, that's oftentimes cheaper than if I were to get my kids into some sort of like a club football training team. Or same thing with baseball, right? You can be on a local baseball league, but once you get into like the travel ball realm, it becomes more expensive. Number 2, mid-season cuts and alternates. Making cuts or moving athletes to alternate positions months into the season takes a heavy toll on kids' mental health. Our athletes dedicate endless hours and give their all, only to be told there's suddenly not enough. It's devastating and confusing. Consistency builds confidence, but sudden roster changes tear that down. These are children, still learning, still growing, and they deserve stability and communication, not consistent uncertainty. Now, this is where I'm going to have some disagreement and some agreement. So I think that alternates on a team are absolutely pivotal. They're absolutely pivotal. I think every single team should have alternates. And in fact, I need more alternates on both of my teams that I coach because I've had people out so much with injuries or sickness or illness that I'm running out of bodies to put into the routine when we are missing people. So I need more alternates on both of my teams because my teams are larger. And this is a great opportunity for the alternates who are not quite at the level that I'm asking them to cross to get experience. One of my alternates who's alternating into my level 4 routine right now has really made a case for making the team next year and even being the first person to be put on the team if someone else is not doing their job. Additionally, I think it is really important from a competitive aspect for athletes to know that there are people who are vying for their spot. And if they're not going to consistently do their job, like this person says, consistency is key. So if you have someone who is consistently missing practice or not able to participate because they have injuries or conflicts or things like that, then maybe that person needs to be replaced. It's far better for the entire team to be able to continue progressing and replace that singular individual athlete who is not giving the consistency that everyone else is than it is to have the whole team have to rework everything because we failed to plan for the negative circumstances. And I've told my kids this, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I tell my athletes every year, I love every single one of you, but I don't love any one of you more than I love all of you. Meaning, I will not prioritize the individual over the whole. And I want my athletes to make sure they understand that. Quick story, when we went to D2 Summit last year, my level 4 medium team, about 2 weeks out, we had one of our athletes who had been struggling. She'd been out quite a bit that season with back issues. And she'd been really pushing to get put back in the routine, but she really hadn't competed since January. And she'd been pushing and pushing, like she took a break and then she was really trying to get back in the routine, but she wasn't executing her skills well. She couldn't land her tumbling consistently. She was still in a lot of pain. She was kind of hiding it, but I knew she was still in pain. We made the decision. It was a really tough one, 2 weeks out from D2 Summit, that we were going to replace her. We were going to put one of the alternates in her spot. And that sucked. That was a really crummy conversation to have with this kiddo. We had to say, hey, look, we're not going to have you compete. And in that conversation, she was like, yeah, it's actually, my pain has been at about an 8, which now full circle, come to find out that she had stress fractures in her back that had been undiagnosed. They've now healed and she's kicking serious booty. And I'm so happy she's almost like fully back because she's really done a great job on the team and like established herself as a really huge asset. But she had to step. She wasn't in the routine. She still went to Summit. She still got a Summit ring when we won. She was still a huge part of the team, but that was what was best for the team and ultimately what was best for that individual athlete. I can't even imagine what would have happened if that athlete had touched down, as she was somewhat consistently in finals, and that had cost us the win because we won by 0.06. So a singular touchdown absolutely would have cost us first place. And that would have been horrible for that athlete. And it would have been my fault because I didn't make the change. So I think that replacing athletes is sometimes necessary. It all comes down to the circumstances. If it is a gym that is using it as just a constant threat, oh, you don't want to do your job, then I'm replacing you. Oh, you missed because your grandma passed away and you had to go to their funeral, you're out. I think that is definitely an unhealthy environment, but there should be alternates and adjustments to include adding people or removing people from a team as needed. It's a really challenging position to be in. And I've been to a lot of gyms. I've met a few coaches who are very much just like, just get rid of them. We don't want them. But that's just their knee-jerk reaction. They don't actually do it. I've met some coaches who are that cutthroat. I've had kids cheer in those kind of programs where even the day they got to Worlds, they got told they were getting replaced with an athlete from Team USA. I've had an athlete do that. But for the most part, I see coaches and gym owners trying to figure out how to keep kids in the routine. How do we make things work despite the fact that this athlete isn't able to do the skills that they tried out with? That's what I see more often than not. And that's what I do more often than not, is how do I get this kid up? How do I build this athlete up to where I want them to be versus tear them down? Now, I can't speak for every program, but that's what I do think we should be doing. That said, I think alternates are important. And I think sometimes you do have to make a cut based off of that athlete's dedication and execution. It's not fair to make everyone else be accountable for one athlete not living up to the expectations. Number 3, replacing loyal athletes. Bringing in replacements late in the season after athletes have trained all summer is demoralizing. It sends the message that no matter how hard they work or how loyal they've been, they're always one step away from being replaced. This mindset doesn't motivate, it breaks spirits. Instead of searching for the next best thing, focus on developing and uplifting the athletes who have already invested in your program. Loyalty should be valued, not overlooked. So I agree 99%, and then I disagree 1%. The 1% is I don't think it's bad to add athletes to a team that is not yet full or to a team that needs an athlete. So if you are needing an athlete to come in and execute something that is lacking in the routine and that athlete walks in the door, I think it is negligent to not add that athlete to the team. Now, that might mean in very rare circumstances that an athlete gets replaced from the team completely. It will almost certainly mean that an athlete gets replaced in some of the skills, or athletes will be replaced in some of the skills that they are performing. But that happens all year. That happens all year with the loyal athletes and the not loyal athletes. Like, routines change constantly. And so your spot might not always be your spot. I am still in the process of making my routines hittable, which means I'm moving the puzzle pieces around to make sure that we're hitting the score sheet correctly and we're doing things the right way. So I don't know that adding athletes to get the right mix is wrong. That said, loyalty absolutely should be valued. And if you're a cheer coach or gym owner listening to this, when someone comes into your gym out of the blue, you don't know what baggage they're coming in with. They could have a series of challenges or problems or negativity that you're potentially adding to your mix. And if you've got a really good culture, then is that skill, that tuck, that handspring, that layout, that full, that double full worth the potential risk? Do you know this person well enough? And yes, I do think loyalty really does matter. I have said for years, if you push yourself for this team and you give 100% of what you're available to give that day, every day, then I'm not going to replace you. I'm not, unless you're injured, unless it's best for your health, or you literally can't do your job, which means I didn't set you up for success because I put you on a team that even with 100% effort that you had available on every single given day, you couldn't contribute to the routine. So that's really on me. Then I'm not going to be replacing you. Like I just won't. And I've had the opportunity. Like I have really, really great people that I know that I get to work with through dream camps that will oftentimes still have years of eligibility to be able to compete. Like I've got at least 3 different people who were on my Worlds team last year who still have a year of eligibility left. They're just in college right now. And I absolutely could kick a kid off the team right before Worlds and put that kid on the mat. I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't do that. As long as that kid is doing their job, I would never do that. So I do think loyalty is really important, and I think it needs to be valued. And if a kid and a family are loyal to you, you should be as loyal as possible to them. But being loyal doesn't mean putting people in a position to fail. And I think that that's the tough balance. Now, it sounds like just from reading this person's post that they're at a fairly aggressively competitive gym that does make these kind of cuts, or at least they're seeing that, or that's their impression of what's going on in their experience. And I would be willing to bet that my gym doesn't function like this person's gym does. I think there's two sides to every coin. The amount of kids that I've replaced over the years, like last minute in the season, is like I can count it on one hand. And most of the time when I've replaced athletes last minute mid-season, one was with an athlete who was already in our program because that athlete quit in the middle of practice, told their coaches to go bleep themselves and walked out of the gym. And we have a rule that if you walk out of practice, you don't get to come back. And so another athlete went into their spot. That was one. We had one who quit late in the season and then we had to replace them. We had one who was pulled right before Worlds, like probably 3 or 4 weeks before Worlds, by their parents because of behavioral issues. And we actually had to pull in a former athlete to compete. This was luckily when we were open, so an adult was able to step in, which was actually really, really cool, just from the perspective of getting to have this athlete who graduated from our program and went on to do amazing things in college, then take the mat with us one last time. It was kind of a full circle-y moment. The athlete that I described who was injured, like those are the ones. Oh, and I had another athlete who was injured last year too, right before Worlds, and was unable to attend, and we had to put an alternate in their spot, which I don't think this person is talking about. Like, that's not a lack of loyalty. Like, if an athlete has a broken bone or some significant injury, I'm assuming they don't expect us to just not replace this person. Number 4, the coaching culture matters. Coaching should be structured and positive. There's no need to talk down to athletes or degrade them to get results. Respect breeds respect. The most effective coaches inspire through encouragement and accountability, not fear or embarrassment. Every athlete deserves to feel safe, supported, and motivated in their gym. Ultimately, I 110% agree with this person. Coaching culture matters, and you are going to reap what you sow. Now, that said, I do think you need to be a balance of a tough coach and a loving coach. I'm a tough coach. My kids know I'm a tough coach. I am a demanding coach, and I'm going to hold them accountable. And sometimes I'm going to lose my temper and I'm going to yell, which I don't love doing. Yelling is not my favorite thing, but it does happen. And sometimes it's exactly what my team needs. Like, there have been more than one occasion where the kids, after they've gotten their booties chewed by me telling them they're being lazy and not doing the job, and even kicking them out of the, go to the lobby and come back when you decide you're going to be a real team. And they've come back and been like, thanks for doing that. We really needed that, like, reset. So there are times where they need the firm hand. But I agree, there's a strong difference between a firm hand and belittling and making people feel badly about themselves. If you tear your athletes down, they're not going to rise up on competition day. So I'm not a big believer in making athletes feel badly about themselves. I think that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. If you've ever seen me coach or been to like dream camps or anything, I'm the supportive coach. I'm the guy who's out there like trying to hype kids up. Yes, I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to tell you that you need to behave and like be a good person. But other than that, like, tearing kids down is just it's not effective. It's not the right thing to do. It's actually just, it's flat out wrong. We should not be doing that in this industry. These are kids, and we have to remember that they're kids, and we have to separate the fact that a kid might not be doing a skill correctly from that kid as a person. Where I'm the hardest on my athletes is when it's like a behavior thing, right? Like, not a skill thing, but a how they show up, how they deliver, how they treat one another. Those are going to be the times that I get really frustrated. I actually got really frustrated at my practice last night with my level 4 because they all showed up and like just weren't there. They just didn't really care. And it was because a couple people were missing and they were just kind of like, man, we're not going to try tonight. And I was like, I don't care that your skill wasn't perfect, but I do care that our effort wasn't there and that we all kind of universally checked out and weren't being respectful to one another and the coaches. That's my issue there. But I 100% agree with this person. Coaching culture matters. Coaches, you guys need to hold yourselves to a higher standard. And if you're that like mean coach, maybe be the tough coach or the demanding coach without being the mean coach, right? There's a difference. Someone who's demanding is someone who pulls the best out of you. Someone who's mean is someone who hurts you just to hurt you. And we don't need to be the mean coach ever. Just doesn't have good results. Number 5, favoritism and fairness. Blatant favoritism based on personal relationships is discouraging and frustrating. Every family pays the same price to be here. Every athlete deserves equal opportunity to grow and improve and be seen. When certain athletes are consistently favored, others start to feel invisible. No matter how hard they work, that destroys morale and motivation. Families aren't asking for special treatment, just fairness, transparency, and an even playing field for all. I think this is a really fair request for an even playing field for all. In the flip side, the athletes don't all show up the same on every day. So people talk about favoritism, and I'll tell my kids, in terms of favoritism, I absolutely have favorites depending on the day. You might be my favorite today. You might not be my favorite tomorrow. It depends how you show up. It depends what you're giving me. I have kids that I love all of my athletes. One of my favorites athletes, I could have chewed her out yesterday because she wasn't there. She wasn't locked in. She was absolutely not my favorite. I have another athlete who I love to death. She literally tries my patience to no end. Like the amount of times that we have come to like so close to like verbally just going off on each other. And we, she managed herself, I managed myself, but like her attitude, like the biggest eye rolls you can ever see, that, the athlete that can eye roll with their entire body, like that's this human. Like and her and I have talked about it. She knows, and she knows I'm talking about her right now. And I love her to death. I truly do. But she knows that like, there's no secret. When she's mad, when she's unhappy, everyone in the world knows. And that athlete, when she's mad and she's kind of letting it show to the whole world, is not my favorite athlete. That athlete, when she's on and doing her job and pushing her teammates, is one of my favorite athletes to have around. And I want that athlete to show up more often. So when we're talking favoritism, I know that some things look like favoritism that aren't necessarily always that. Coaches are going to go to the kids that they know are going to deliver in terms of, I know that this athlete will show up in the moment. I know that this athlete will be able to hit this skill more consistently based off of their experience or their mentality. Like there are a lot of things that we take into account. However, the favoritism can look like doing only privates with a particular set of kids, taking kids out for like ice cream afterwards, but excluding other kids. I mean, the list goes on and on. You guys kind of know what favoritism looks like. And I think you really need to be careful of it. It's actually the hardest if you are a parent with a kid who's also in the gym, because you're going to create relationships with the kids that your child is friends with. Like they're going to be around more. You're going to see them more outside of practice. And that's going to be a really challenging dichotomy. It's a little easier for me as a male because I can just kind of be aloof in general and no one's thinks that's weird. Even when my daughter's friends who are on teams come over to the house, like me being off kind of doing my own thing is not weird. As a female, it's taken a little differently. And so I think it's harder for Tori when it comes to like not showing favoritism thing. I'm lucky that I don't really have that issue. I think it is important to not have favorites though, and like give people preferential treatment just because. I think that is a fair request, and you should always strive for an even playing field and not to like pick your favorites. Number 6, accountability and communication. When parents bring up concerns, please stop gaslighting or dismissing them as the problem. Most families are rule following, respectful, and fully supportive of your program. They promote your gym, bring in new athletes, and can help generate livable income for your coaches. And not just through team fees, but also through privates, classes, and extra training. These are loyal families who want to see your gym succeed. Shutting them down or labeling them as difficult doesn't solve anything. It just pushes good people out and damages the reputation of your gym. True leadership means listening, showing empathy, and handling feedback with professionalism. A healthy gym culture starts with open, respectful communication, not fear or defensiveness. I agree, 100%. I agree. I think gym owners and coaches need to do a better job of listening more consistently. Now, if we were to listen to every complaint all the time, we would never have any time to actually coach. So there is a balance to be struck. But when there are significant concerns that get brought to my attention, I really do try to spend the time to listen to them, whether it be from a coach, a parent, or an athlete. In fact, my biggest frustration is that there isn't communication from the ground up. I oftentimes don't hear that someone is frustrated with something or that there is an issue until it is so far gone that it's really hard to pull back and make adjustments and correct. I've had some athletes over the years who've really struggled and they don't communicate until they're at their breaking point. Recently had an athlete who left our gym particularly. And I didn't know that they had the frustrations that they had until they said, "Hey, we're looking at leaving." Well, now I don't have any time to correct that. And not saying that I could have corrected it, but on my side, it's frustrating to be blindsided by that and say, man, I would have loved to try to mitigate some of these problems or address some of these frustrations for you. Now, some of them I couldn't have addressed. Some of them I could have. But yeah, it takes communication. So gym owners, I agree. Gym owners, coaches, we need to not be defensive when we hear feedback. Just like we would tell an athlete, if I give you feedback on something that I don't like or that you're doing wrong, I don't want you to be defensive. We should also not be defensive. Now, that's a little bit harder because sometimes you will have parents giving feedback that comes from the perspective of wanting the best for their athlete or even potentially wanting the best for the team, but not fully understanding how that translates into the sport because they don't have the experience, and that's okay. They're not the expert. I hear coaches and owners all the time say, I don't walk into the doctor's office and tell them how to do their job. And my response is, but you do, right? I mean, how many of us go to WebMD, Google, we walk in and we're like, I know exactly what's wrong and this is the thing I want to do to treat it. We do it with doctors. We do it with restaurants. When you go to a restaurant, here's the menu. Hey, I don't want this and this and this. Well, the chef made it with that. The chef had that in mind, but we make our edits. So we do it in everything. We can't be shocked when parents are getting involved and having an opinion. We can disagree with their opinion. We don't have to act on their opinion, but they're not a problem just because they have an opinion. Now, parents, you can be a problem when you're voicing your opinion, and you are being difficult when you're voicing an opinion to everyone else, but not the people who can solve your problem. Okay, if you are talking to someone about something that is bothering you and that person cannot solve your problem, you are either gossiping, or if they're a trusted person like a husband, a wife, something like that, you're venting. But if you are talking to your athlete, if you as a parent are talking to your athlete about something that's making you mad about the way things are running in the gym, then you actually are being a part of the problem. Now, I'm not saying you can't ask questions of your athlete. Hey, tell me about that. I find that a little concerning. Can you tell me more? And gather information, and then again, go to the person who can solve your problem. That's great. But ultimately, if we're not talking to the person that can actually fix the thing, then we're just gossiping. So I agree. Gym owners and coaches need to be more receptive to information. Parents, communicate, because we can't take that information if we don't know it. And the amount of times that I've had people be like, well, you should have already known this, or I know that someone told you XYZ. And I'm like, they didn't, or I don't remember. I mean, it's possible that they did, and they said it in passing and I just didn't pick up on it. I generally want my families to be happy. And I know that gym owners out there generally want their parents to be happy. We don't actually look forward to making people unhappy. Even the parents that I don't always get along with, I don't look forward to making them unhappy. In fact, I do everything I can to try to avoid making them unhappy because I know that I'm going to hear about it and they're going to be very frustrated with me. And I'd rather not have to have that phone call. So that's my personal opinion on that one. So they went on to close with, right now, too many families are financially and emotionally drained. Too many athletes are questioning if they want to keep going. This isn't what cheer was meant to be. We're asking gym owners everywhere to take a step back and remember why the sport exists. Let's bring back the love of cheer. Let's create an environment where every athlete feels valued, respected, and inspired again. With respect and hope for change, concern cheer families and athletes. You know what? I think that's a wonderful call to action. And I agree. I think that families are financially and emotionally drained if they're not in a healthy environment. I think athletes are questioning if they want to keep going. That's been happening for years and decades even, but I think more and more there are, because the demand is higher and higher. I think bringing back the love of the sport is ultimately what it should be about. Help your athletes learn to fall in love with cheer all over again. And it is possible, and it is only possible if gym owners and coaches are on that path, which I think is what this person is getting at, reducing the cutthroat win at all cost mentality. The problem is, and I will just tell you the flip side of it, the problem is the gyms that win the most have this mentality. And so when coaches want to win, and when parents say that the number one thing they want is to win, and when people leave gyms because they're not winning enough, what that trains owners and coaches to do is win at all costs. It teaches them to believe that that is what is most important, because what they see the gyms that are winning everything doing is that exact thing. Then they think they need to emulate that. That can become problematic. So on the flip side, parents and athletes, if you want to get back to the love of the sport and enjoying the competition and realizing that not everyone can win first place, then we have to stop quitting gyms just because they didn't win that season. We have to stop holding up, making everything celebrated about the win and the win only, and constantly talking about why we're not winning and why we're not scoring high enough and why we didn't get the full paid bid and all of those things. Those have to go away from being the focus and just being a tertiary victory if you get it. I'm not saying don't strive to win, but that can't be the ultimate prize. All right, everyone, this was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. To the parent who posted this, I want to thank you for putting it out there. Thank you for saying these things. Thank you for communicating your thoughts and standing up there for other coaches or other parents and athletes. Having these discussions is exactly what the industry needs to drive the ball forward. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for making this post and for being so articulate and overall positive on where the industry can go. I hope you all enjoyed it. With that, we will catch you on the next episode.